Hey guys, welcome back to Watch Trading Academy. And today, joining me is a special guest. Ben Ridley has just crossed the 100K line and has now become a 100K club earner. So congrats. You know, a long time coming. I know a lot of people know you in the group. A lot of people have been doing business with you in the group. So it's exciting to see that you're finally here.
Yes, sir.
Having your own interview. So I've seen you a couple of times come here with other people that were having their interviews. So now it's time for you to be sitting here talking to me. So, you know, big congratulations to you. And I know you've been working hard for this. So let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I think has been true to your story, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been very successful by associating with the right people and basically absorbing their mindset too, in a way, like seeing them work and getting your own story. So tell me a little bit about when you started Watch Trading Academy, how much money did you start with, and what was the first watch you ever bought?
100%. So I started in November of 23 with a Omega. It was just a little Seamaster. I think I invested like $3K into it, like, you know, just very skittish, just trying to figure it out. Lost like $12 on it or something. I was like, oh, this is stupid. Gave it up for about a month. Sort of started to get back into it. I met Lucas Wilson, local WTA guy, now a great friend of mine. He really sort of pushed the mindset side of things and pushed me into you know, actually growing and adding more capital. And that pushed me really far. In January 24, he invited me out to dinner just to hang out with a lot of the local Charlotte guys, which was just like a snap. Okay, this does actually work. All these guys pulled up in exotics wearing 50 grand watches. Like, okay, something's working here. So I invested like pretty immediately another 50 grand, and it took off really quick. Sort of found my niche in Panerai. That's what I got good at, learned the brand inside and out, started buying extra parts, extra boxes, extra straps, just everything so that I was ready for anything that would
You're like a Panerai salesman.
Essentially.
You know, like you basically have everything to make Panerais look more exciting, play with them.
Correct, and make them exciting and decreasing the possible hold time from something being broken, just to, you know, keep deal flow rolling, and got really hard into deal flow, and before I knew it, I was
You know something,
awesome.
like I said earlier, like success by association, meaning getting around, by proximity, I should say, being around people who have succeeded. You said something right now, you said, these guys pulled up in an exotic, they had nice watches on. Why was that a trigger point for you? What was the disbelief before that? Because we've done plenty of interviews with people that were also successful, right? We've found hundreds of people.
For me, it was meeting these guys, talking with these guys, and asking them what I now know to be just absolute dumbass fucking questions. But asking those questions and being told, like, no, that's not why this does this. This is, you know, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to fix this. And just having those connections. So anytime I had a question, I had an issue, just being able to send a text and get an immediate answer. Even if it wasn't in the direct path I needed to go, I was at least aiming the right direction. And so that, you know, next time I encountered that issue, I knew exactly what I needed to do.
Okay, so having that real life like contact, not just it being like a guy on the internet, right? Like, okay. So, you know, one of the things that I think generally people get into this fear, right? Like, why watches? What were you doing before watches, and how was it why did watches appeal to you to begin with?
Watches really didn't appeal to me. I was never into really the cheaper stuff. I'm into Rolex for whatever reason. That's just what I wear every day now. AP, similar. I wear both of those every day. I had no real appeal. It was just the money. I'm very money driven. And, you know, whenever you get that first flip for 500, it's cool. You know, the second or third time, by the time you hit that, you know, the third, fourth time, it's like, okay, now I got to hit 1,000. And then that builds to 5,000, then 10,000. And it's just, it's an addiction.
Okay, so the addiction became the money part of it, which is okay, because that's the point of this, is to make money, not just work bullshit.
100%.
So you didn't have much knowledge before in watches?
I knew nothing.
Like nothing? Like
nothing at all.
Like you knew what a Rolex was, I assume?
That I knew what a Rolex was. I knew what an AP was.
But you didn't know the models or anything?
I didn't even know what a Panerai was. I've owned more Panerais than a lot of people really in the U.S. at this point. I didn't know what a Panerai was a year ago.
So, you know, you decided to specialize in one specific brand over another. What was the trigger point that made you decide that was going to be your strategy? Like one brand, that's the main area of focus or expertise, and I'm going to go from there.
I was just finding a lot of great success, and that's not to say that, you know, Panerai is the magic spot. There's a lot of guys like Eric Boyke. He kills it with Breitling and Omega. So that's not to say, you know, there's one specific brand that's the moneymaker. that's just what I found my niche in, and I learned it inside and out. And I set targets and goals for each watch. So I know, hey, this watch I need to sell at 3.5, I need to buy it at 2.7, or whatever the case is.
Okay, so I'd just like to know that because it's interesting I've been always saying that when people specialize in a brand early on, they typically find more success because they become an expert in that brand. And it's easier to advise people when you're an expert than when just selling anything. You're like, I don't know much about this watch, but hopefully you like it. So you speak about this idea of mindset, and I want to go back for a second to that. You talked a little bit about how Third Circle Theory helped, like the book I wrote helped you kind of refocus your mindset. Tell me a little bit about what factor that played in your success role.
So I've been reading it over and over because it's one of those books you're going to read it the first time, you're going to miss something. The second time, you're still going to miss stuff. I honestly think you could read it 10 times and you still have more to learn. For me, it's a huge mindset shift in making, logical decisions over emotional. Yeah, if I can sell a watch and make $500 today and go buy the next, why wouldn't I do that over trying to hold it to make an extra $200? Like it's not, it's just not an intelligent move. So making logical decisions, and it helps me far beyond watches and other things I'm doing as well. So I've read that book a ton, and still to this day, I read it.
Well, it's a progressive book. I always say depending on where you are in life, it'll have a different meaning to you. And the more you evolve, the more you'll catch what matters and the core of what the book is. So, people are going to be watching this. They've seen you participate in the group, selling stuff. They've seen your evolution from Panerai to Rolex to some of these higher Part 3 watches. What was the most impactful training program you took, and why was it impactful?
So I guess for early success was WTA 2. It answered a lot of the questions that WTA 1 leaves. Of how to progress to that next level. But at this point, probably elite coaching, because it goes back to that, what I was saying earlier of having those connections, especially for me locally, but having, a nationwide, group of guys who have experience in numerous different brands. For example, Justin Brown, solid with AP. And then you have, Sam Back, solid with AP. You have Alex Smith, solid with Patek. So if I ever have, a client wanting a certain watch, I can go, hey guys, what should target be on this watch? What's this going to cost to replace, to resell? And I have just an immediate answer of this is what you need to do.
It amplifies your reach, right? Like
100%.
Like your reach of data, your reach of knowledge, your reach of buying and selling, which is interesting that it's held such a strong impact on you. You're now. Are you trading a lot of AP Rolex, or is that more like just once in a while kind of happening? Still, Panerai is the leading.
Panerai's definitely leading. I probably sell around 25 to 30 watches a month. Panerai's definitely around the 15 to 20 mark. AP, I'm starting to trade that more, on a weekly to, twice a week basis. Mm-hmm. Rolex, I've got some pretty strong AD connections that are helping me there. Otherwise, I really don't touch Rolex unless it's from a client trade-in.
What is the hardest part? What was the hardest part for you getting to 100K? Like, what was it? Mindset? Was there a specific trade? Was this something you weren't understanding in the beginning?
The biggest issue I had,
because I know you've been trying to get to this goal for a while, and it's something that I'm just
a little bit. I mean, it's really only been 9 months. If you like to make, where else are you gonna go make $100,000 in 9 months?
No, I know that
That's
part. Like,
insane.
I understand you've done it now, but what was the trigger from that? Really, was the difficulty to overcome?
Having the nerve to put capital in, and that's really just an initial issue I had. Let's call it the first 3 months or so. Mm-hmm. Just being able to push money into it that I've worked hard for in other areas of my life, and having the trust in something I've only been doing for 8 or 12 weeks to throw $100,000 at something and go, hey, hope this works.
Right. So that was really your once you actually saw proof of concept, you were willing to do that, and it helped with
100%.
that transition. So, people are going to be watching this. They want to be in your position. You watched other people come here. I literally were there with them when they got their 250K awards, et cetera. And you're on your way there too, which is going to be interesting, right? That's an exciting thing. 100K is just the tip of the iceberg, just the beginning of the journey. So what piece of advice do you have for people watching this that in terms of they're joining Watch Trading Academy this year. Black Friday is usually a big year where people jump in and they go, I'm going to take a chance on this. What should they take back or lessons learned for you that they should pay attention to so they can have better success than you?
So lessons learned, treat your customers right. I don't care if you have to take a loss to do it. Make sure you're treating your customers with absolute utmost respect. It will pay dividends 10 times over. Next, whatever you got to do, sell one watch a day. I don't care, if you're selling for $1 profit, just get it sold. That's another connection made. It's at least $1 made. You get the experience packed in a little bit more, move on to the next. It's going to take time. It's going to take, a little bit of mindset shift. But once you get to that point, it really, snowballs from there.
Okay. And when people are starting at this, do you recommend they start small, start big? I mean, you had that transition where you started small and then inject the capital. Like, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently?
For myself, I honestly don't think I would have done much of anything differently. Maybe pushing money in a little bit quicker, but that would have maybe even only been a month or so quicker. So, that for myself, I don't know that there's much I would do different other than just trusting myself and trusting the community. Other than that, everybody's risk exposure is different. You can easily go throw $1 million at something. I'm going to struggle to throw $1 million at something. So it's a little bit different for everybody, but just trust yourself, trust the course, trust the things you paid to learn, follow the things you paid to learn. I can't tell you how many people will go watch the courses and then do something just entirely different and then blame the courses. That side doesn't make sense.
But it's been very common, actually. It's funny you said that. I was doing an interview before you where two people were like, I barely watched the course and I just went and bought the wrong watch. It still worked, so I just went with it. And I'm like, okay, but it usually doesn't work. Like, no. I get that, this might have been the exception, but like, why do you think people get excited and yet, even though they paid for the course, they have access to it, it's free once they paid for it, it's not like they got to go and repay for it. Why do you think people aren't following a model?
I think a lot of people get gung-ho excited, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm happy that they're excited to get into something new. For me, it was never about the watches. I could have cared less about wearing a freaking watch. It was about making money, whatever I had to do to make money. For a lot of guys getting into it, it's just, hey, how can I wear an AP for free for a month and not lose my ass?
Okay, so for you, it was just the money in and out, and that was the exciting part.
It was only money. And now, now that I'm on this side of it, the connections that I've made have been so much more valuable. I know like 3 billionaires now. That's freaking insane. Right. I shouldn't know billionaires, but I know.
Right. The luxury business opens doors.
It's insane.
Places, right? Yeah. That's what I always say. A lot of people take that for granted because they don't realize the power of it and how much it actually helps. So the networking's helped, the opportunity to meet people, turn every watch over and obviously make money. I know you're on your way to 250K. I know whenever people come here, who's going to basically keep going or not. Tell me a little bit about what scares you going to 250. What is it that you think you're going to run into as a roadblock or not?
For me, it's I'm still learning the Part 3 model of Rolex and AP. And Patek specifically, I'm starting to look and starting to study that market and trying to figure it out.
I love it, yeah.
It's a progressive game. I get nervous with, how quickly you can lose, 3, 4, 5 grand in a watch. But at the end of the day, I'm making 15, 20 grand a month. So if I have to take a 5K
higher risk,
lesson,
higher reward, right? Okay.
If I take a 5K lesson, that's worth it just to move on and go, next time, don't do that again.
So, you said WTA 2 was a really big help for you at the beginning, and now Elite has become kind of a catalyst for next change. If you could sum this up in terms of, this Black Friday, which one should people really hone in on? What would you say for you?
Depends on where you're at, and in the game. If you're just getting started, if you just bought WTA 1, go get WTA 2. It's a worthwhile investment. If you're, you've been in it for a little bit and maybe you even already have WTA 2, let's go get Elite and surround yourself with guys who have a better mindset than you. Because even beyond watches, there are a lot of guys in Elite who are making a lot more money other than watches who might be able to help you out, in other sectors of your life.
What did you do before watches? What do you continue to do now?
I've got a background in telecommunications.
Okay. Are you still doing anything with that, or are you just kind of completely walked away?
It takes probably 40, 50 hours a week.
Right. That's still like a job / what you do, and then
own a business.
Right. But I mean, this is still by trade, and then
For sure.
Watches are still a part-time thing ultimately, even though they're
100%.
full-time, they're part-time in that way.
For sure.
Cool. So, well, first off, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Secondly, what an incredible achievement. I'm really glad that you were able to get here. I know 250 is around the corner, so we'll probably see you earlier than later. And for everyone watching, as I always say, it's simply just looking at success stories like Ben and just asking yourself, if he did it, why can't I? And more than anything else, will you be next, or will you keep watching others living your dream instead of you being that person? So will you be the next person or not? And I'll catch you on the next Watch Trading Academy episode.